Hi, I decided to make this little video to show you how I use the crochet hook to bind off and make the bobbles to finish off the Carnival shawl. So the first thing that we're going to do is the same as if we were knitting. Go into the first stitch on my left hand needle and bring it through. Slide that stitch off. The center stitch of each of the knit 3 is where you create the bobble. So this is going to be my bobble stitch. I go yarn over, bring up a loop, and I chain 2, chain 1, chain 2. I leave both of these stitches on my hook. Now I don't go into this first stitch, but I'm going to go into the stitch right below that. Yarn over, go into that stitch, bring up a loop, pass through 1 stitch, pass through 2 stitches. I have 3 stitches on my needle. I leave them there, and I repeat that again. Yarn over, go through 1 stitch, I'm sorry, it's a little bit awkward doing this in front of the way I'm holding it, so I can video it. Go through 2 loops. Now I have 4 stitches on my hook, and I do it one more time. Pass through 1, pass through 2. I now have 5 stitches on my needle. I grab my yarn and I pass through all 5 stitches, give it a little tug to make it tighter, and then chain 1. The next part of how I like to make the bobble is I turn it to the back and I pick up the loop, the base of the bobble. So I pass my hook through, I grab the yarn, I pass it through that, and I pass it through the stitch on my needle, and that makes it nice and round and puffy. And then we're going to bind off a series of stitches by just slip stitching. So go into the stitch, go into the stitch, pass it through that stitch, slide it off. That's a bind off. Do it again, go into the stitch, pass it through, slide it off, bound off 2. Go into the stitch, pass it through, slip it off. Now I'm getting to my knit 3. This stitch is going to be the bobble stitch again, so I have 1 more bind off stitch to go. And now we're going to do the bobble again. So I go into this stitch, pass it off, chain 1, chain 2. I'm going to go into this stitch now, so I'm going to yarn over, go into that stitch, pass it through one stitch. I'm sorry, I didn't do the yarn over. Let's start that again. Yarn over, go through the stitch, pass it through one stitch, pass it through two stitches. I have 3 stitches on my needle. Remember, we need 5, so I have to repeat this 2 more times. Pass through one stitch, pass through 2 stitches. I have 4, so I need to do 1 more. Yarn over, pass through one stitch, sorry, let me do that last one again. I have 4, I need 5, yarn over, pass through one stitch, pass through 2 stitches. I have 5 stitches on my needle. Draw through all 5, tug, leave this a little bit bigger, chain 1, turn your work around to the back, go into that stitch, bring it through that stitch and through the stitch on your hook, and now we're going to be binding off again. So we have 2 bobbles, and now we bind off until we get to this middle stitch where we're going to do another bobble again, and I'll just show you the bind off one more time. Go through pull it through that, slide it off, go in as if I was knitting, bring up a loop, pass it through that one, slide it off, sometimes it helps to pull this a little bit away if you need to get your hook in there. And I'm up to the middle stitch where I do a bobble again. I hope this little video helps explain how the bobbles are made to finish off the bind off and the bobbles on the Carnival shawl.